Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to have you join us today. We're going to wait a few minutes to see if anyone else starts joining us. But in the meantime, if you wanted to introduce yourself, you could say who you are, where you're from, maybe something that interests you about VR, or an interesting story about VR. You can write it in the chats, or you can always unmute yourself and say it while we wait for people to come join us.
I think we should unmute Bethany and have her and I just talk for an hour about VR. You guys get all excited because we both feel the same way about VR. Hello, Bethany. I see you down there.
Hey there, how are you?
Good. Glad you made it.
I just noticed Pat Franks is here. Hi, Pat.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I was like, wait, Pat's here. Hooray.
I know. I've got my camera all screwed up here, so I've got to move over to see you.
Right, so we've got
9:30.
Yeah, I was thinking this was a late one. So the VR Exploders represents Bakara's VR Exploders, as Pat Franks is a founding leader.
I'm eager to hear the presentation.
Me too. John's awesome.
I'm going to put my camera off while I try to figure out what happened to my camera there.
Me too.
I'll be back.
We should give a shout out to the VR Explorers Club.
Absolutely.
Because that's a rare thing. I don't know. I'll just say, for you guys who are listening and are muted and have your camera off, I encourage you to speak up and yell. Yeah, so the VR Explorers Club is awesome. I have yet to make a meeting because the timing is rough for me, but they go to a social VR space almost every week, it feels like now, and get together and chat and explore it and get familiar. And I don't know if it's open to everybody, but it's a really great group. And you can try things out with a friendly group of people who will help you get over the technical humps. So it's nice to meet you in person, Pat. I see your emails all the time and I keep wanting to make it and it just hasn't worked out.
Same here. I think there's one this Friday, right, Bethany?
Yeah, and I think we're going someplace I've not been.
I forgot.
I know, I'm looking for it now. It's let's see, VR Exploders. Where's that?
And I did download it. I did check it out.
Yeah, it's where are we going this month?
So I'm just curious for y'all that are here already, either unmute and shout out or raise your hand or something. Have you guys been in VR? I guess that's the first question. So have you tried VR? Have you put yourself in a 3D headset and looked around and played with stuff? And if you haven't, it's totally fine. I would be surprised if most of you had, but I'd just like to know who's done it. Yeah, Pat and Bethany, you automatically raise your hand. All right, cool. We got a couple. That's actually about what I expected. So everybody else has not tried VR. Okay, but you've heard of it, I'm sure, or you wouldn't have been here. Yeah, and I know you're all remote students. How many? Let's see. How can I ask this question? How many of you are within convenient distance of San Jose State, of that you would be willing to come by at some time? Or I don't know if because I have no idea if you're in other states or LA, or wherever you are. But are you close? Are you in the Bay Area? Let me put it this way. No Bay Area? All right. Well, if you're ever here and you're interested and you haven't tried VR, we have an amazing lab. So I would love to host. I'll give you a special tour and get you in VR and play with it and show you some cool stuff. So anyway, all right.
Shall we go ahead and get started? I'll keep an eye on participants and letting any late people in.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. All All right, I guess let me like share my screen and I'll begin talking, right? Or did you want to say something first, Lauren? I forgot.
I'm just going to say this is Mr. John Oakes. He works at the KLEVR lab, which is a lab in the library at San Jose. And as San Jose students, as high school students, we don't necessarily get to use the resources, but we brought John in so that he can kind of allow us to use the resources from far away. And,
Yeah.
and I'll let him tell more about himself and lead the presentation.
All right. So just a quick check to make sure Zoom hasn't let us down. You guys see the title, VR in libraries? Okay, great. All right. Yeah. So let me just take my, it freaks me out when I see myself on the screen. So I'm going to like put that down. Yeah. So let me just tell you, I'm going to take just like maybe 15 minutes. This isn't going to be death by PowerPoint, I promise, because it's already late in the day. But I am the technology labs at the King Library. And that means broadly, I support emerging tech for the campus. My focus is on digital humanities, but it's anybody who's affiliated with the university can come to me for help. I'm super into VR. That's kind of what brought me to San Jose State. But I also do AI and blockchain, Internet of Things, and gosh, what else? Just basically electronics or programming, any kind of stuff you need help or guidance on. I won't do it for you, but I'll definitely provide resources and support, help you get over the hump. And when it comes to VR, I've got a great amount of resources we can talk about. So real quick, just as a ground setting activity here, I'm just going to describe the definitions that I currently work with in terms of VR, AR, XR, MR, all these kind of acronyms that get thrown around. You hear a lot about VR, metaverse. Every company has a metaverse strategy nowadays. And there's really a bunch of technologies that are combining together to make up whatever the metaverse will become. And AR is one of them. And if you have a smartphone and have ever played Pokemon Go as an example, or one of those games, that's kind of an AR experience. They also can have glasses. Here you see an old Meta headset, not a Facebook Meta headset, which is when you have a digital image overlaid on the real world. So you're seeing the real world, but there's a digital layer in front of you. Then there's mixed reality, which is when you have you're seeing the real world, whether it's from cameras or looking through glasses, but there's digital elements integrated with the real world. So there might be stuff behind physical objects, or here you see like the example where they're working on, some electronic panel, but they have a video conference up. And then finally, we're going to mostly talk about VR, which is probably the most mature technology at this point, and the one you're probably most likely to run across with your studies, with your friend's house. For the holidays, you're going to probably run into some VR. And that is when you have a headset that creates a complete digital environment for you. So everywhere you look is computer generated. You can look up, down, left, right, behind you. You can grab things sometimes. You can interact with a completely digital world, and you don't see the real world necessarily. So that's kind of what the definition is. And there's a lot of overlap between AR, VR, and then the collective term that you'll hear a lot is XR, which is just, the industry standard for X can be anything. It's just kind of reality. And the way VR works and why we're talking about it, why it's so powerful, is that it replaces many of your senses with digital input without being too invasive. So we can track your body movements, we can track your head movements, we can saturate your ears and your eyes with new information and track that in three-dimensional space. So it gives you a sense of reality. And it's getting better and better all the time. You might be surprised to know, because when I learned this, I was surprised that our senses have bandwidth. So like you have your internet connection at home, you have, maybe a 10 megabit connection, or maybe you have a gigabit connection. Similarly, somebody did the work of figuring out how much bandwidth our various senses take to communicate to our brains. And so your eyes only, it's a lot, but only take about 10,000 kilobits or 10 megabits per second of information in through your eyes. You think, like, that's crazy. I navigate the world with my eyes. But really, if you actually look at the neurology of your eyes, you're only seeing a very small point of space that's in focus at any given time. And the rest is blurry. And your brain just kind of fills in and remembers the space around you. But any given moment, you're actually taking about 10 megabits of information. Smell is like a whole lot more because it's all this, there's so much we get from smell that cues us in about our environment, the state of the chemical status of what we're smelling, where it is. Because it's all about getting food, right? It's like you can smell that food, you can know if it's bad food or good food, or if there's a dangerous animal that's going to get you. So we've evolved to have really keen senses of smell, although we don't rely on that too much during the day to get by our day, unless you're hungry and you're trying to find out where the hamburgers are. Taste, similarly, very sensitive, huge bandwidth requirements there. Touch is actually, if you look at it, like so much more than even eyesight, because you experience, you can feel touch throughout your whole body, but really on your hands, it's very, very sensitive. And you can interact a lot with sense of pressure, heat, cold, pain, how sharp something is, how heavy it is. All these things go into your touch senses, and you just kind of like your brain just kind of handles it and manages it for you. And then lastly, hearing. So you put all that together, and even though it sounds like a lot, it's only 3 gigabits per second to completely simulate somebody's reality at the fidelity that we're able to perceive it. And so that's within reach. We already have gigabit networks, and like we're like not that far away from being able to simulate a perceptually convincing reality to somebody using computers. For right now, though, we're kind of limited in the VR sense to a little bit of sight, pretty good hearing, spatial audio, and a little bit of touch. So we're very fractional of that, but that's enough to make a really convincing simulation. So I don't know so I'm gonna have a hard time tracking the chat, but if somebody has a question, maybe, I don't know, anybody who feels like it, shout out the chat questions. I just saw a question about smell. Yeah, smell is very powerful. Actually, last week at Augmented Reality World, there's a trade show in Santa Clara. There was people demoing smell in VR, and pretty primitive. It's not gonna convince you yet, but they're working on it. They actually have a product, and they were using it for, they were kind of gearing it towards not entertainment, but like enterprise training. Like, for the example they gave me in surgery training, which medical training is huge in VR. Surgeons use their sense of smell. Never been a surgeon, and I'm sorry, this is gross, anybody's eating, but they can smell if there's an infection, and you can use that to help identify where problems are. So there's really interesting applications for that. So anyway, let's move on from that. So where are we? So that's why VR is important. I was chatting with everybody before, and I could go on for hours about VR, but I'm going to try to keep this kind of concise and talk about what's the benefit for you guys short term and get you into some experiences. And if we get through that and everybody is happy and they want to stay and ask more questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But I know we're going to be somewhat limited on time. So what do we have for resources? How can you experience this? Most of you have not had a VR experience yet. So how can you get one? One is you can come here. You can come to the library. You can come to any public library branch in the San Jose Public Library System. They have VR gear. You try it out. If you come to campus, please let me know. I would love to give you the grand tour. There is also, if you're ever on campus, and I know most of you are remote, or almost all of you are remote, but Classroom Support has mobile VR kits that you can use for specific lessons. If you wanted to give a demo, there's classes that feature using VR equipment. Like journalism teaches Unity and VR app creation. So you create your own VR experience to convey something about a social issue that you pick, and then they help you build it. I've seen some of the results and they're amazing. There's an ARVR Club, which you do not have to be on campus to be a member of. We do, because like we meet virtually. Sometimes it's even in Zoom. Sometimes we do it in hubs. Sometimes it's in other things. And you can also email me for advice, appointments, referral to resources. And I didn't put it on there, but there's the VR Explorers Club, which we should talk about as well. They go out and do exploration of social VR about every week and explore different social VR platforms. And most of those you don't need a VR headset for. That's one thing I wanted to stress, is that a lot of this you can explore just with a desktop computer, even your phone. Like what we're going to get into today with Mozilla Hubs, you can do just about everything with your smartphone or a laptop or a high-end gaming computer or VR set. So it's really nicely scalable. Let's see, there's a question in chat here. Yep. Oh yeah, and there's a second. So Second Life, whole nother conversation. But yeah, Second Life is another social platform that people you can join, and there's a huge community, and they have communities for San Jose State as well. So let's see. Let me go back a little bit. So just talking a little bit about how we use VR in the library. So one, it's just fun. We get students into, and they play Beat Saber, or they go, play a game or create some art or something. And I just encourage people to do it, just to get exposure to it, just to have fun. But then the pandemic happened, and we also integrated into classes, which I'll talk about in a second. But pandemic, we're kind of still in it. We're still mostly virtual, and people were getting Zoom fatigue, and there was a lot of exhibits and events that we wanted to have in the library that traditionally would be physical art exhibits or events that we would host that we couldn't because we were closed. So we needed to come up with something quickly that would let us, we could just create PowerPoints and invite people to Zoom sessions, but students, particularly incoming students, weren't very excited about that. We needed to make something that was accessible to everyone, even smartphone users. Some of our users don't even have laptops, especially incoming freshmen. We wanted to make it VR capable, but accessible to everybody. So, and also didn't want to have any coding, no downloads, no installs, because we didn't know what kind of environment they would have or the technical capabilities. And we didn't want to have coding, like in other words, programming, which I can do, but we were kind of hoping to hand this off to non-technical staff to maintain, to update, to put more content in, and we don't want to burden them with having to learn a language. And it had to be free. And it also had to be impressive, innovative, high quality. We had to do it in a hurry. So a lot of conflicting things. We were very resource constrained, had to do it in a hurry, and couldn't spend a lot of money. So we did what we could. We used a combination of platforms, which I will now kind of talk about, and then we'll get in and we'll start playing with one, which is really the fun of it. And let's see. Lauren, do I have till 7:30? Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's why I'm going so fast. So let me just say again, honestly, I love talking about this stuff. If you're interested in VR and want to talk about it, hit me an email, we'll do a Zoom, and you can ask me whatever you want. But you guys will have access to these slides. I'm going to put a link in chat, or one of the hosts can put a link in there. But these are some of the experiences we did. We did a few others. These are probably good representative ones, which I'm now going to show you. First of all, let me just tell you, Art of Remembrance was a Day of the Dead exhibit. The library every year for the last 15 years gets artists to come in to the library and build ofrendas for the Day of the Dead, which are altars to their relatives or family. And sometimes it's associated with like a social cause, maybe like climate change, Black Lives Matter, or whatever's important to that artist or that community. And they're beautiful, and they are temporary, and they have food, and they have pictures, and they have flowers and art and sculpture and everything that's representative of that group of people or that cause that they're doing. And I really wanted to capture these. One of the things that motivates me here in the library is I'm trying to instill this idea of using VR to capture experiences and archive them and capture them in 3D so that, 50, 100 years from now, when this kind of stuff is second nature, we'll have really good quality models that people can see that are much more detail rich than what you can get with a 2D image. Because 2D is only going to capture the front, and it's valuable. It's invaluable if you don't have anything else. But if you can capture the whole experience and what it was like to be there, it's a much more powerful thing for research, for experiencing what it was like. So Spartan Quest, which we'll show a little bit as well, was for the incoming freshmen who were going to be Spartans, but we're not going to get a chance to ever come to campus for the whole year. So we wanted to show them campus a little bit, show them some of the landmarks, some of the history, the culture of social activism that San Jose State represents, and get them kind of starting to get plugged into the culture of the campus and give them resources to find out more about it. And then lastly, we did one which was a pure art exhibition from this family that makes these beautiful hand-painted paper lanterns. And they were supposed to be hanging, all 70 of them were supposed to be hanging in the library and people could walk around, but the library was closed. So we came up with a way to produce those. So now I'm gonna take you quickly through each app. So let me just stop really quick and share my screen again. Get over to the right. So let me just see if there's anybody have any questions. So first up, I wanted to show Spartan Quest. So Spartan Quest, there's a library, by the way, if you've never seen it, was created. We made a digital, what's called a digital twin of the campus. So we took Google Earth data and ran it through some software to try to make a model that would work. So this is the campus from Google Earth, and you can kind of like see it from 3D perspective and get your bearings. But then also, sorry, I'll settle down the piloting for a second. We put these butterflies up on the app, which you could click and then get an up close and personal view of some of the sculptures and artifacts around campus, which these students were not able to see in person, but just getting a flavor. And it came out pretty well. One of the challenges we had was, again, not much time, but little access. Like for a while, I wasn't even allowed officially to come on campus to get some of these images. So we had to like kind of scrounge for them, but came out pretty good. And you got a really good feeling for the size of the thing and how it would look on campus. And you could hear, I've got it muted, but there's an audio that goes along, kind of a talk track for each of these things. And we've got one for the victory salute, which you can go around and look at. And we've got the library, and we've got Uchida Hall, which we didn't have a model of, but we were able to get it in there as well. And then we also put in these links so they could find out more resources that would take you to websites on our library site. And we kind of added as an add-on information about the Antioch Church and the monument, the Quetzalcoatl monument that's important to the city of San Jose and the university, talking about that. So the advantage of this app was pretty popular, believe it or not. We put it together in a couple of weeks, and we had 100 students come through the experience when we launched it. People were using it in their classes. So professors would come and they would say, they kind of would use it for their intro to their students about, like, for example, they would come, I don't know where they were, but they might say, yeah, and here's where my office is if you want to come on campus and see me, or, here's where this event happened, or here's the freshman dorms, all these kind of things that would be kind of hard to do. You could do it on 2D, but it was just more fun to do it in VR and invite students in there with them. And so, yeah, so that's what we did with that. And then another example would be let's see, gonna move my Zoom bar out of the way. The Art of Remembrance, and this one is a pretty complicated one. But we have this little hummingbird, which will, when you click on it, will follow you around. The hummingbird's a very significant creature for the Day of the Dead. And I didn't know that when I created it, but that was what the OCNA committee told me, because I was saying, what could I use as a little guide? And they said the hummingbird. So cool. So we got a little hummingbird model, and then we were able to create a kaye, yeah, this is a kaye. And an alfombra was created. The alfombra is like a ground display out of flowers, and then all these altars. Now, the interesting thing about this is that these are completely 3D. You can get in there up close. You can look at them. The artist will tell you about what they were doing and what they were thinking when they made it. And the interesting thing is, I've never seen these altars in real life, but because we were able to get video of them, we used some software called photogrammetry software to create these 3D images and create this experience that otherwise people would not have been able to use. And this one is my favorite, because this is the Spartan Altar. So we had students who submitted art and pictures for people that they had lost in the previous year, and they were able to provide a little picture and narrative of, about the people that were special to them. And we have pets, because that's valuable. We had one student submit a picture of his class. The class is okay, nothing happened to them, but he was just felt strongly about remembering this group of people that he was leaving because he was graduating. And so it was really nice. And I hopefully will revive that in the coming years. So yeah. So I'm going to give you the links to all these. They're in the PowerPoint, and I would love it if you guys would go through here and try them out. And then the last one I'm going to show you is the 2021, which was created by, primarily led by Bobby McConney and Bobby McConney-Lim and Felix Chan-Lim, who are members of this family, this artistic family that create these images. And I used for this one Mozilla Hubs, which is where we're going to spend the rest of the time we have today, probably. So Hubs is great. It is an open source product, meaning that the code that they write is available to anyone to use, to change, to repurpose, and it is a multi-user app. So I'm going to create a room in a minute, and you all will be able to come in and join me. I hope you do, because it'll be fun, I promise. But we were able to take these 3D models that we were created, and I've never seen these paper lanterns. They basically created a little lazy suit, like a cake turn, and videoed them rotating in space, and then sent me the video, and we were able to make these 3D models out of them. And they were able to have their exhibit and share it with the world. And it looks decent considering the constraints that we were under. And there's paintings that they've created from the family. There's music that plays, and there's a PowerPoint that tells you a little bit about where is it? Over here. A little bit about the theme of the room. And there's 7 rooms, so you can come in and learn about it. And it's nice. And you can come in here with people. You can talk about it. You can interact with the lanterns in some cases. And it wasn't the hardest part was creating the lanterns. Creating the room is pretty easy. And that's what I want to show you next. So let me catch up on chat here.
I think we're mostly just saying how interesting and amazing
Okay, good.
all
good.
of this is.
Great. So let me close off some of these so we can free up some browser memory. And so now I want to show you Spoke. So real quick, Hubs is, you can kind of see the naming convention, but Hubs is named such that it's a hub for people to create things. And then they have an editor called Spoke. So right now I'm showing you Spoke, and this is the Native American art exhibit These were photos that were provided from a national powwow. These are amazing pictures. Unfortunately, they didn't give us any data or text or explanation about who these people are. But there's just, I got to show you this one kid. It just looks like he's so cool looking. This guy, I love his face. He's just having a great time. He looks awesome. I don't know anything about him though. I wish I knew more. That's why I didn't really use this as a highlight one. But I wanted to show you the tool because it, yeah, let me back up here so you can see the whole scene. There's these templates that you can use. And if any of you are familiar with 3D modeling, and it's okay if you're not, you can create these scenes in any kind of 3D tool, but they really recommend Blender, which is another free tool. And then you can place your content in there. So let me just see if I can show you on the screen. I'm gonna shrink that down. So there's all these different assets you can do. You can create your own world. It doesn't take very long. If I had a little bit more time, I would walk you through it. But you can bring in models. You can, build in colliders and lights and videos and build a classroom or build an exhibit very, very easily. One site I will add to my list is you need to look at the Beethoven Center, what they did for Beethoven's 250th birthday. It's a beautiful site, built-in spoke that goes through all of Beethoven's work, has interactive videos and models that they put in, and it's really well done. Now, this does not require any programming. In fact, there's no scripting, which is another way of saying programming, which limits it. But in terms of your first step into creating a VR world, there's nothing better. So let me just really quickly show you what it would look like to start from scratch. So we're going to start a new project. And this is kind of the default space. It's nothing special. But let's say I just wanted to quickly create something that I wanted to bring in a model of one of my altars that I did. So let me go to sketch. Let's see. Let's see. There's a good one. So I'm just going to grab this URL. So I like this model, and you can see it here. It's going to load in a second. I don't know how to look on Zoom. So this isn't one of my models, but just to give you an idea, somebody created this nice example altar, and I was going to do the Day of the Dead thing. I could then go back to, I've got the URL for that. All it takes to bring it in is I just say, okay, I'll put it right in my scene, and I can set all these options and so forth, but that's all it takes. And I'm going to place it right there. And without it just takes a second to download. I hope it works. It'll be a live demo if it doesn't work. I think it's going to work. Hey, it worked. Good. So just like that, I've dragged in a 3D model from the internet, and now I have a scene. So I'm going to say, okay, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to get all fancy and do a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to say, created this one thing. But now I can publish it to hubs for free. I'm not doing anything crazy here. I didn't pay $50. I didn't download anything. It's just all on my web. And I'm going to just save it and publish it. And it's going to tell me a little bit about the scene and tell me if I've overdone anything or if I've put in something that's too heavy duty for the scene. And then let us join it. So, so I made a mistake a little bit, not too bad. I think we'll be okay with it. So the model I picked is very heavy. It's got 150,000 triangles. And so if you're on a phone, your phone is going to have a hard time keeping up with that because your phone's just not as powerful. So I am going to not make you guys do that. Something I forgot about that. So I'm going to bring in, let's see, I'm just going to grab something a little lighter. And I don't know what this little device is, but we'll discuss it in a minute in VR. It's a Spartan. Anybody knows what a Spartan is? Let me know. All right, so let's publish that to Hubs. Gosh, planning this out, an hour seemed like a long time, and now it's like 7:07, and I feel like I've just gotten started. So, all right, let's just keep it going because I want to get you guys in here before everyone goes to sleep for the night. Okay, so I published it, created my scene, and we are going to jump in. And then you'll see I've created the scene now in Spoke, and I can get a preview of the room. I can enter in on a VR device, or I can just observe, but I'm going to go ahead and join the room on my laptop. And with Hubs, you get they're going to generate an avatar. It's very privacy focused, so it doesn't make you have an account. You don't have to link into Facebook or anything else. So you can be completely anonymous, and they'll give you like a random name that will be unique. You can type in your name if you want. You could make whatever you want in there. You can change your avatar. I've got this avatar that I created a while ago that's just a rough approximation of how I look. And I'm going to go into the room. Now I'm in Hubs in this VR space. Now, what I want to do is I want to invite you guys into here. So I'm going to put this into chat. And boom. So I just put into chat the hub.link and oh yeah. So, okay. So here, okay, you guys are joining. Awesome. I love it. Thank you. I've done this for some classes and sometimes people don't play along. So I'm really appreciative that you guys are playing along. Now, once you get in here, what I want to mention is make sure you're muted in Zoom as you come in, because you will get a huge echo because Zoom and Hubs will be competing for your microphone. Now I'm going to keep my Zoom on, and I'm actually going to stay muted in Hubs because we're recording, and we discovered one time that if the recording doesn't understand how to record for Hubs anyway. So, but you should be able to talk to each other. You guys can see me, and we can move around, and it's actually location-based sound. So you can be next to somebody, they're going to sound louder than far away. Oh, nice. Who got the dancing girl avatar? That's pretty cool. If you want to change your name, you can. It's up to you. It doesn't bother me. But we can all gather around and look at this, whatever the heck this thing is. It looks like a frying pan, I guess, but I don't know. Now, so we're here. We can also create content. So you, as an individual, if you look down the bottom of your screen, there's a place button. So you can place a 3D model, and there's going to be a whole bunch of samples. So I'm going to place whatever a boppin' Ariados is. I don't know what that is, but it's fun looking. So you can bring in 3D models. It's even animated. You can pick it up. I can throw it around. You can make a copy of it, a bunch of stuff. So you guys go ahead and, yeah, somebody brought in a little landscape. So that's cool. You can share your screen. So we can even share the Zoom screen in Hubs and make it bigger. Or farther, so you guys can all keep up on what's happening on Zoom. So this is what my screen looks like, and we could be sharing a video or a PowerPoint or whatever. So pretty useful, and you can create your own spaces. Let's see. Jump out of that. You can react and say, I'm having a great time. Or you can even have your own chat over here like we do on Zoom. It's a little confusing when you're trying to do it from Zoom, but I can all chat with you. And obviously the other thing is you can invite other people. So we could invite people or even embed this HTML to have like a permanent meeting room for us to come and hang out and have fun. And so it's just one way. And if you can use this, and there's like, as Bethany or Pat will tell you, there are dozens of social VR apps that you can play with. Hubs is just the it's very useful, very functional. And the iSchool has its own Hubs server. So Bethany, I don't know if you want to talk about that in any more detail, but it's going to be something that you're going to be involved with, maybe having classes in iSchool or presentations. And if you're at all involved in user engagement or user experience, I highly recommend getting familiar with Hubs. It's a great way to break out of the Zoom fatigue. It doesn't cost anything. It's very quick. You saw how quickly, in 2 minutes, I built a little world, and you can get as creative and crazy as you want and spend hours on it and have a good time and make something really amazing. Or just get in there and hack around or use any of the templates that are pre-created. So let's see. I'm just gonna see if there's anything else. Yeah, so it's so you're here. So I guess anybody have any questions or want to try anything or create a different room? Can, I guess, put it in Zoom chat so everyone can see, because not everybody is able to make it into Hubs. Oh, yes.
John, it looks as though Bethany got kicked out for a minute there. So
I just got, brought her back. I let her back.
Brought her back in. Yeah. So I think maybe she would be able to talk now to that.
Yeah, Bethany, I guess
regard.
we lost you for a second. I was going to ask if you can hear me, if you wanted to speak to the plan to have a Hubs server available to iSchool students, I guess. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
I can't get in. I'm so bummed. My internet's really bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
all right.
if people get bounced, they should just know that, like sometimes when you have internet trouble, I can't be in Zoom at the same time. I tried, and if there's too many people in there or whatever, and your internet's not good.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Looks awesome. I'm so glad people are in there though.
Yeah, and somebody was asking, we'd love to see how it works for students. I can tell you it is great for students. They love it. And if you're in a situation where you are going to be teaching a class to students, and I don't care if they're in 3rd grade or college, I will be glad to spend some time with you and walk you through a dry run to make it go smoothly, because there are some technical things like Bethany just found that can happen, and you need to deal with those. But they love it. We had several classes, some business. The one most recently was in the College of, is in Child and Adolescent Development, had a lecture on emerging tech and decided to do it in a Hubs session. And they'd never been in VR, never had Hubs. And we kind of went through the same process. And they actually had a group assignment in Hubs. So the professor had created a world in advance and had put up basically poster projects with topics and some information. And they assigned the groups to go in Hubs to the, maybe, different areas of the room. And then they gathered together and they talked like it was a physical classroom, but they talked together. Didn't have to go to Zoom breakout rooms. And then they kind of, as a whole class, kind of went around and presented what they found from each poster project. And they were having a great time because they were they were avatars, and some of them were pandas, and some of them were robots, and they were giggling about that, and they loved it compared to Zoom. So I highly recommend it. I think it really changes the game, gets people thinking about spatial learning. It really removes the distraction from traditional Zoom when you're going to be looking at your phone or the refrigerator or Netflix or anything else that's going on, because it takes your whole attention, and it's pretty powerful that way.
I have a question for you, John.
Sure.
And if it is a kind of newbie question, I do apologize. But
This is the best kind.
so we're looking at this from our computers or laptops or phones right now. So how would a virtual reality headset or hardware play into the hubs here?
So if you had a VR headset, you would, you could go to hub.link and enter in a code, this code 08879. And if you're in like Oculus Quest, for example, on the browser, it would load up in a VR environment, and you would see pretty much the same thing, but it would be in 3D. You'd have a feeling of depth. You'd have hand controllers, which would give you a little more flexibility in how you interacted with objects on the scene. But other than that, it would be kind of the same experience. So it would be more compelling for you, because instead of having to, like, if you wanted to look left and right now, I got to click my mouse and look left and right. If you're in VR, you would just look, it's already there. And it's pretty well optimized, so it behaves really well. So you don't have to worry about lag as much.
Nice. Thank you so much.
You can also, in some worlds, you can even turn on flying, so you can fly around. This one doesn't have flying, so you can't do it. But, oh yeah, somebody took a photo. That's great. Yeah, you can do group selfies. It's really fun. Get together, and in fact, we could try that. Let's see. If you guys can hear me, come gather around. Let's do a group selfie. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Even my computer is struggling a little bit. All right, let's see if I can do it here. Yeah, okay, so come gather around my big giant head, and we'll take a selfie. Get as many of us in here as possible. Let's see. All right. Trying to position the camera to get people here. All right, well, I'll just do it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, smile if you can. All right, I got a picture. Let's see how that comes out. Well, it's a good picture of me, mostly, but you can do stuff like that. That's all right. I won't worry about that too much. Let's see. Okay, so in the last 5 minutes, let's see. Anybody else have any questions?
We have one question in the chat. The chat's a little busy, but we have one question here from Allie. And Allie says, I'm very interested in learning how to use VR in the physical classroom and in any academic applications. We don't yet have VR headsets at my school. It looks like middle school level here. Books, websites, or other resources that you might be able to recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a web, oops, I think I left the room. There we go. There's a bunch of websites. Let's see, we just can never remember the educators. There's an ARVR educators website, which has a lot of, there it is, ARVR in edu. So let me just put this in chat. It's pretty good. It's not everything, but it's a great place to start. And ARVR.edu.com. And they have conferences, and there's Vicara, which is I don't know if it's limited to higher ed, but I think it's really pretty good. But there's a lot of resources here. And I think you can look at that side to get some ideas. In elementary, let's see, what grade did you say?
Middle
Middle.
school.
So
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, like the VR headset isn't essential for middle school because they're very comfortable with games like Fortnite and what have you. Let me stop sharing so I can get back, talk to you real. Okay, so there's a great tweet that I have saved somewhere, which I don't have ready to share, but of these middle schoolers playing in hubs on tablets because they all have their iPhone carts. I don't know if you guys do. If you have iPhone carts, that's a great device for hubs, and you can do everything from them as long as your Wi-Fi will support it. And that's probably the next big thing, is having a good enough internet connection. There's Minecraft, Roblox. Somebody said those are both good. Those do cost money, so that's something to keep in mind when you're talking about the digital divide, which is something we have to be cognizant of, which is one of the reasons why I like hubs, because it's free. And there are some people who say that children under 13 should not use VR headsets, at least not for long periods. And I think there's more research that needs to be done on that. I think the improvements in technology will limit some of the risks for younger kids. But if you're 12, 13 years old, you can be in there for a pretty decent time. And the cost is coming down. I mean, the Oculus Quest, now, I will say I have deep concerns about Meta and Facebook and their integration of their data and their data management policies. So I don't recommend them. I actually would encourage you to avoid using those products in educational practices. But for yourself, or if you don't care or whatever, it's an expensive way to go. There are new hardware coming. There is new hardware coming, which is under $500 for an all-in-one. And I've tried some of it last week. So if you could just give it another 6 months before you make your purchasing decisions, I think you'll have a lot of choices that are free of third-party logins, which is a big concern for all of us. And I think you need to especially be careful as educators in a classroom, making your students log into a third-party system. So you want to be aware of the platforms that they run on. Anything currently today, anything that's put out by Facebook or Oculus or Meta, which are all the same company, but just so you know, the Oculus Quest or anything they come out with later, requires you to have an account with them. Now, it's a free account, but it's not really free because their terms of service dictates they can take all of your biometric data and use it in any way they see fit. And that is extremely dangerous long-term for users. So there is, it's another whole discussion, but I can tell myself, I have the skill and I'm not a huge hacker, but I can put you in a VR experience and I can tell your heart rate, your gender, your biological gender, what you are aroused by and disgusted by. And this is all subconscious. These are subconscious reflexes that you cannot control. And in certain situations and in certain countries, luckily in the US, we don't have this problem, but in certain situations and in certain environments, that kind of information leak could be deadly to some students. You don't want them, they don't want to share stuff that they're not ready to share. So there's some things there that we need to be aware of. Although I'm very bullish on VR, I'm very positive. I think it's a very powerful thing. There's a whole nother conversation to be had about the ethical use in education and in business and even in social interactions. And there is an IEEE committee, which is a standards body, which is working on the ethics white paper, which I'm part of, that will be coming out very soon. It's already pretty much done, to give some ethical guidelines on how you should develop apps, think about data management, think about privacy. because the dark side is all the powerful things we talked about with regard to like pain management and stress management and physical therapy and education. In any technology that we bring, you can invert it. So if I can relieve your pain, I can make your pain worse. If I can relieve you of post-traumatic stress, I can probably give you post-traumatic stress. If I can help you reach new levels of empathy, I might be able to strip that empathy away. So there's some it's a very powerful tool, and tools can be used for good or ill. So I'm really glad you guys are here, because I know you're the kind of people that are going to use them for good. And I do kind of see my mission in life as recruiting and educating people to be more cognizant of the technology, because we have been raised to make children consumers of technology, and I think I want to make them users of technology. And by that I mean I want you to have the tools to build your own world, to not be stuck in whatever Facebook gives you. And I want you to understand how the data is used, how the technology is used, so you can get your students to use the technology for their ends and not be used by it. And that's very important. A way bigger topic than we can do in an hour, because I'm already coming up on the end, but I'm very enthusiastic about it and very passionate about this. So like I said, honestly, the biggest part of this talk is I'm here for you. You're students of San Jose State, even though you're scattered all over the world, apparently. So feel free to reach out to me, and yeah, you're right, Ollie. And we do have a whole series of topics. And in fact, I was talking to your director yesterday, and we might be working on something like that. And I'm sure Bethany and I would be a pretty good dynamic duo on that.
There's a lot of interest here in the chat, so I'm sure you'll be hearing from us and hopefully inviting you back for another 1 or 2 sessions.
And and I could do so definitely we can talk about it, because there's definitely a lot of stuff to talk about with biometric data and how that can be used and misused. And there's a lot to be said for the idea of what is identity in VR, and what is our ethical obligations in interacting with each other and with systems in VR, especially in light of video game mentality, which, gamer culture and all that is a whole nother thing that we don't want to necessarily translate directly into VR. So, also I'm going to point out Bethany is a great resource for you all to do all this, because she thinks deeply about this stuff as well. I don't know what your job exactly is over there, Bethany, but this should be part of it. You should be a mentor for VR and spatial computing content.
Well, as far as the mentoring side, in the big picture, I want to be a mentor for it or whatnot, but as the director of online learning, I have other stuff to do as well. But hey, I want to just send the tutorials over, if that's all right, through chat, John.
Please do.
So this is the just the Mozilla Hubs one, and it's also linked to the one on Mozilla Spoke. These are just like tutorials I wrote up to kind of explain kind of how this works from like the building side. So those might be very helpful to you guys if you want them. And like I said, the School of Information, Dr. Anthony Chow, our director of the iSchool, we met with John yesterday, and we do have an instance of Mozilla Hubs code that we've just gotten approval from the university to use, and we are going to provide these for students. So I think it's incredible what librarians can do, and anybody in the information sciences, when you think about cataloging, building, and exploring and archiving these kinds of environments and experiences. So thanks. Great session, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Bethany. Yeah. And I know it's a late evening for many of you, and I really appreciate you jumping into Hubs and having a good time. I love talking about this, and I will be glad to come back anytime you want me to talk about whatever. And I guess that's about it. I want to respect everybody's time. So, but I can be here for as long as another 20, 30 minutes if people have questions. It's up to you.
Do you want me to put your email in the chat also? So if people want to
feel free.
you?
Yes, and it's also on the slides. at the end, so you can look it up there too if you lose it in the chat. All right.
I'm going to
Everybody
go
else?
ahead and stop the recording. That should not discourage anybody from staying to chat as John invited them to, but I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much, John.